Okay, so the next award coming up is Manager of the Season. Now, another one. Napoli can't keep doing this.
Can't avoid it.
I'm going to say the nominations that we have from our friends. We do have from Cover Mondial Pod, Manager of the Season, Spalletti. North Curve says Manager of the Season, Spalletti. Joe Spagnoli says Manager of the Season, Spalletti. Fede Farco says Manager of the Season, Spalletti. And then Footlol says Spalletti. Now, I feel like Spalletti's going to get it, but what I want to do is throw a few more names into the hat, Adam,
Yes.
or any of these names on your list. I've gone for Sousa from Salernitana, because I think he needs a shout. Palladino from Monza, and Marco Baroni from Lecce for keeping them up.
Ooh.
Or were any of those names on your list, or do you have any other names to throw into the ring?
No, there's two on my list. One of them was Maurizio Sarri, and the other one was Max Allegri. No, I'm only joking. No, it's definitely Luciano Spalletti.
Max.
No, but I think Maurizio Sarri deserves a shout just because I think the context is Lazio were not necessarily expected to be in the top half of that top four mix, shall we say. And I think he's done a superb job when you consider, I felt in the summer, they had got rid of a lot of players that I thought, actually, are they doing the right thing here? You know, they're losing some big names. There was a few players that I wasn't going to be like, oh yeah, they're missing out too much. But he started to kind of curve this kind of place of attitudes that was there. Like he replaced the goalkeeper quite quickly. Provedel came in, for example. He didn't initially play, if you remember. It was only because of how bad the other replacement came in, had a bad debut, and then got replaced by Provedel and never looked back. But also, if you think about how astute Sarri has been with the players, you know, he's rotated certain players. They've stick to a philosophy of playing a certain style, which is Sarri ball. But more importantly, they've got the results along the way. Now, I appreciate they probably could have done a lot more in the European competition stages. It's definitely fair to say. And I think there's been some frustration from Lazio fans on their progress there. But I think just in general, the fact that they've managed to secure the Champions League spots is incredible. And the way they're going to build is obviously through that by maintaining those positionings. But I think it's key that they've got some big performances out of the likes of Zaccagni, for example, SMS, who I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. And then obviously you think about just the likes of Luis Alberto as well. He's had a phenomenal season as well for Lazio. And even defensively, Romagnoli. I mean, if you think about also the kind of backdrop with him, came in from Milan, the laughing stock, but it's been so solid for Lazio to the point that they are behind Napoli in terms of best defensive record in the league. So I think that tells you a lot about Lazio. And don't forget, Sarri got a good result against Spalletti in Naples. He got a phenomenal result against them. One of the very few sides that managed to get a result in Naples. So yeah, I think he deserves a shout, but I think it's going to go one way, Rory. But let's talk about your candidates that you've mentioned. Palladino, I really like that. I really do like that because given the circumstances, I think how he's come in, bit of a novice, so to speak, and just managed to get out these performances. I mean, this is the story, I think. Monza, what a story that is.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think he's come in with like a squad like it was, well, we talked about it ourselves about how much they'd kind of invested or planned to invest through loan deals if they stayed up like in that squad. And they had a lot of quality like Stefano Sensi, if he's ever fit, but like Pessina, and they brought in a lot of really good quality players. And Juan Pablo Mari, but they had just a good level squad, but it didn't seem to be working. They looked like they were going to get relegated. Just something wasn't quite clicking. And he came in and just got this system in place, made them very solid defensively, made them hard to beat, but also got them playing some good counter-attacking football and able to keep hold of the ball when they needed to as well. They weren't afraid to have the ball. They weren't a team that was afraid to pass it and kind of try to slow a game down, take control of the game a bit. So I think he really did an incredible job there. And they were a team I think all the teams that got promoted into the league last year were kind of favourites to go down, and for them to not really ever be even close to going down since he took over. There was no talk of it once he took over. It was just, oh yeah, Monza will be fine. Look at them, like they all. And even you could say if he took over a little bit sooner, maybe they could have pushed up a little bit higher, because they only finished 4 points behind Fiorentina in 8th, and like 10 points behind Juve in 7th. So I'm not saying they would have got European spots, but they could have been pushing up towards top 10, which would have been incredible for their first season. So I think he's done an incredible job there. Now Paulo Sousa, I know we were kind of taking the piss out of him, and he's a bit of a running joke still, and people aren't quite sure how it's working. But before he took over, Salernitana had 21 points. He's been in charge for 16 games, and they got 21 points. So he doubled their points tally. They won 4 games, drew 9, and only lost 3. Now, we know that they went on that huge unbeaten run as well towards the end of the season, where they just kept, like, it was like win, win, win. It was like win, draw, 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 win, draw, 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 win. Yeah. But they were just getting those results, keeping that run going. And I think, again, he's a manager that's come in, and is it a system? Is it just him galvanizing these players together and getting a mood, a kind of us against them? I don't know what it was like, because I know there's still doubts about Paulo Sousa, and I still look at him and go, I'm not convinced by you. But if any other manager comes in and does that with that Salernitana squad, I'm thinking, okay, well, this guy could be getting jobs higher up the league if this continues. Like, why with Paulo Sousa does it not feel like that?
I think it's because he seems to have a little bit of meltdown where his complex is that I'm higher than this level. And maybe he's been a bit humbled from his previous kind of like spells. And I say this because I was a man that was fully supportive of him for the Polish national side, actually. I felt like he brought in a philosophy of play, like it was attractive enough. I felt we were more attacking and more expansive. Certainly, we felt like we could win games. Like even those games where maybe the opposition have stronger players, there was never that kind of doubt that they were better than us. Like it was a case of, yes, they have got better qualities, but we can play really good football and we can still get a draw or win. And I think maybe that's what he's instilled with Salernitana. But when I'm talking about that complex aspect, remember, he left Poland under shadow. And I know at previous spells with the likes of Swansea, QPR, Leicester City, he hasn't necessarily won those fans over after a period of time. They got like maybe read through his tactics and felt like it was the same old stuff. So maybe he's over time started to realise that this was the last chance to learn. Personally, this is the way I look at it, is that Salernitana probably not the calibre of side that maybe he anticipated, but maybe it was a case of, look, I've managed to annoy quite a lot of chairmen along the line, and that word's spread out. So he needed to win over. I can't get a reference, or the word has got out, basically. So therefore, I need to prove my worth. And I think he's now proved it with Salernitana. I hope he stays there, personally, because I think it'll be very interesting to see what he could build there. But the problem is, Rory, I suspect those players might move on, because if we're talking about certain players, Guillermo Ochoa, he's going to be off, possibly, because I think that was only a loan spell to the end of the season. Dia, who I really like, he's probably going to be snapped up elsewhere. And then you look at the age of the squads. I mean, remember, the likes of Fabio Fazio hasn't played for a while. Gandareva, let's see how many seasons we can get out of him. Piontek, we forget, he was there. He's no longer there. He's back at Hertha Berlin, but whether they're back, probably unlikely based on the comments of what Sosa said with Piontek. So I suspect that's not going to happen. But yeah, I'd be very interested if he could follow it up, if that makes sense, Rory. I know there's the rumours with Napoli, but yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, this is his chance to build something. You're right. This is his chance to say, okay, I've got summer. We've got a bit of Serie A money. We can be clever in the loan market, because for them to bring in a player like Dia that nobody was really looking at, and for him to come in and tear it up so much, like they've obviously got, I think they have got good talent ID. Like this is the team that had Simi as well. I know after he'd kind of smashed it up at Crotone, but they are able to find gems every so often. I think even the Candreva signing, I know it's kind of last chance saloon for him as well, but you're adding that Serie A quality, someone who can score great goals, someone who is he's not outstanding, but he's just a good player. And I think if they can just improve the quality of that squad a little bit more, and I think Pablo Sousa does play nice, attractive attacking football. Like you said, he did try to get... Salernitana weren't just putting 11 men behind the ball and waiting. They were going for teams, and they did get some big results against Roma and against some of the bigger sides. So I think he really deserves a shout because he, again, for a team in Salernitana that looked like they were going to get dragged into it, for them to finish, here's my quick maths, 11 points above the relegation zone and again never really be in danger. It's just an incredible achievement. Remember, they stayed up the previous season after losing 5-0 at home. They managed to stay up on goal difference or whatever it was head to head. So I think to have that level of improvement in one season is incredible. So I wanted to give Paulo Sousa a shout. The Lecce one was a little bit, Michael Baroni was a little bit ambitious, I'll admit, but we do need to talk about the elephant in the room. He's now left. He's gone.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But he did do it. Spalletti has to be manager of the season this season. I don't think anybody looked at that Napoli squad at the beginning of the year and thought, okay, they're going to win the league. I think most people kind of would have said that Milan would have retained the title.
Yeah.
They would have said maybe Inter would have pushed them closest. But from the first match day, really, they won their first 10 games in a row, right, Napoli? I think, off the top of my head. And it just from day one looked like they were going to win the league. And it never really even slightly looked close. Can we describe how monumental this season was from Spalletti?
I think it's monumental in his career because I think there was always that little bit that was like, will he ever get a Scudetto? Will he ever win anything? And as much as he won plaudits for previous stuff, how he managed to change the dynamics of Roma, for example, he was obviously tarnished as well for what he kind of managed with Totti, that situation. And I think that was obviously a part of where maybe Spalletti hasn't won too many people in Italy for that alone. But he's a guy of principles, isn't he? He's a guy that sticks to his moral compass. He believes in his squad. I think the fact that he's managed to mold this team into the way that he wanted it. Don't forget, at the beginning of the season as well, that they lost a few players like Koulibaly, for example, and Fabian Ruiz as well. These were big players at the time. Yeah, Insigne is another one as well, who obviously, that was a bit of a weird kind of circumstance, but he decided on his terms that he wanted to go to Toronto. So you're thinking, right, Spalletti has a hell of a job to kind of, build up the quality again and go at it. And I like you, I don't think I anticipated them to be champions candidates. I definitely had them in top 5, but I think with every Napoli team, you kind of go, oh, they've had a good run, but they're going to have a wobbly. It's going to be around the corner. It always happens in Napoli. And, they have this meltdown and that's the end of the season for them. But this time he's managed to maintain it and he's managed to keep them going. And I think what's probably happened is it's a pleasant distraction that they had the likes of the Champions League as well alongside this league campaign. But he's actually, I think, won a lot of friends for the way he's gone about it as well, because there's been plenty of times where I think he could have bit and, got at reporters. I think there was a lot of, not necessarily nasty like commentaries, but certainly a lot of questions marks around how he was managing things potentially. And I think someone like a Mourinho would have kind of turned it and made a sideshow of it, whereas Spalletti's kind of played a long game and gone, it is what it is. I believe in this philosophy. I'm going to stick with it. And I think, he's been absolutely on it. There's been occasions where I feel like his tactics maybe in the latter stages of the Champions League went by the wayside. I think he maybe got a Champions League match against Milan wrong. But that said, if you think about the overall season and how he's gone about it, it's been magnificent. And that probably doesn't even kind of cover off that maybe there was something in the background with De Laurentiis as well. Because although we're knowing about it now, I suspect he would have known a bit about what De Laurentiis was thinking and maybe feeling as well, especially after those Champions League matches. I suspect there was a lot of pressure then. So, full of kudos for the guy. I think he's done magnificently and he deserves this award, Rory. He deserves it.
Like 1,000,000%. And I'm just thinking, kind of to mirror what you've said, I'm just delighted for him to get this on his legacy because he was one of the most admired coaches in Italy. He was someone who Now, I've said it before, but when he was at Inter, I did not enjoy the football. But when he was at Roma, I really enjoyed the football. And I think he's someone who knows how to get the best out of his squad. But I think just for him to prove those people wrong and go from being, oh yeah, that good coach who plays nice football but doesn't do anything, for him to then achieve this huge thing is just absolutely monumental for him to do it. And Napoli, we've said it before, it just means so much more. Rudy Garcia has some very big boots to fill. I will tell you that. I do not envy him right now. Jesus Christ. But the winner of Manager of the Season is Luciano Spalletti. Oh, congratulations, Luciano.